I have been really focused on doing the inner work for over a year now. But really, when I look back, my journey started in January 2020. My journey started when I came across this book. And how I came across it was that a Facebook page was suggested to me, and it was for a 30-day challenge in the new year. And the challenge was all about gratitude. So I joined it, and this book completely changed my life. And it was this book, The Magic by Rhonda Byrne. Now, this was the very first book I ever read that had to do with spirituality and just trusting and having faith in something bigger than you. If you're new to the work and you're not really sure where to start, or maybe you've been doing the inner work for a while and you want to know how to do more gratitude, how to bring more gratitude into your day, then this book is great. In this book, there are 30 days of challenges, and the challenges are quite simple and easy to do, but they make a huge difference in your life. When I did this book, it changed my life. I had heard about gratitude and how important it was to your life before that, but I never really implemented it. Like, I would try, but I never really felt it really from my heart when I was saying thank you to things. When I did this book and I did it consistently for 30 days, I then started to see so many changes in my life, from starting my own business, going full time into my business, moving to a different country, getting pregnant. My whole life changed, and it was really, really beautiful. And I honestly attribute it all to this book and to being so grateful for my life, even on days that weren't so great, because that was also the year 2020 when, the virus happened. I just felt amazing. So I highly recommend this book if you are starting on your journey or you want to just add more gratitude to your life. The second book that I read right after The Magic was Super Attractor by Gabrielle Bernstein. I have been following Gabrielle on Instagram for a little while, and I had seen a lot of people talk about all of her different books, but this one drew me in. Now, the only thing I would say about this book is that it is quite spiritual. So it's all about connecting to your spirit guides, connecting to angels. So you have to be really open to those ideas and concepts if you are looking at reading this book. I was really open to it when I read this book, and I was doing all the practices that she recommends in the book. It was really, really eye-opening, and it was really, really beautiful. In one of the practices is about connecting to your spirit guides, and in the practice you're basically getting really heart-centered, and you're speaking out loud to your spirit guides to connect with you, and then you're writing. And I did that consecutively for a while, and I really felt a difference. Like, I could feel that my guides were with me, and I still do those practices to this day. I don't do it every day, and that I don't write every day, but I do connect to my guides every day, and I do feel a presence around me. I plan on reading more of her books, but this is the one that I started with. The next book that I read is called Ask and It Is Given by Jerry Hicks and Esther Hicks. Now, if you're familiar with Abraham Hicks, this book will be very easy for you to read, because a lot of the concepts that Abraham Hicks speaks about is also within this book. The only sort of issue I had with the book, I don't like the word issue, but the only sort of thing I had with this book is that it does get a bit religious-y, and that sort of turns me off when it starts going deep into like religion stuff. So I actually didn't finish the book. I read probably about half of it, and then I was like, okay, this is getting too religious for me, and I stopped reading it. The next book that I read is called The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot. This book really explores how the universe is a hologram. When I first got this book, I was like, I'm not so sure about it, but I had heard some influencers on Instagram talking about it, and I thought, okay, let me just get it. And the first 3 chapters of the book are a little bit boring, I will say. It just explores how holograms work and gives you a basic understanding of it. But then from chapter 4 onwards, it's literally like your mind is blown. It is so interesting. He gives example after example showing how the universe is a hologram, and it's through his own explorations, people he's met, things that he's seen in his life. And when the book ended, I didn't want it to end. And if you're interested and open to these sort of concepts, I highly recommend you read it. Your mind will be blown. This is the next book that I got, Women Who Run with the Wolves. So I actually shared a video on TikTok about one of the chapters in this book, and that video went viral, which I was really surprised about. But this book is by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, and it is such a deep book. So I believe everyone should read this, not just women. But for women especially, it just gives you such a deeper understanding of who you are and helps you look at yourself in a different way. If you are doing the inner work and you're really deep in the inner work and you have not picked up this book yet, I highly recommend it. I'm actually only on chapter 4 and I got this book 2 years ago. And the reason is because this book really, really makes you think. It's one of those books where you read a few pages and you have to put it down because there's so much deep information on it. So I usually only go to this book when I'm really, really drawn to it, because it's almost as if my intuition is saying it's time to read more. And when I do listen to my intuition and read it at that time, whatever I'm reading always relates to what is happening in my life. It just makes you look at life a lot different. It makes you look at yourself a lot different. This is definitely a life-changing book. So be ready to have your world rocked basically when you read this one. The next book that it was an audiobook that I listened to, is Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. I had never read any books by Joe Dispenza before this one. I had heard about him. I follow him on social media and I always thought his work was really interesting. I had done a few of his meditations, didn't really understand a lot of the things that he spoke about in his meditations, like how to breathe or your symbol, things like that. So I thought, let me read a book and maybe I'll understand the concepts more. And this book definitely did that. This audiobook for Becoming Supernatural, which by the way is a free audiobook on YouTube, I'll put the link below, was really, really interesting because he actually explores all of his meditations that he has and he talks more in detail about how to do the meditations and how to do the symbol with the squiggly lines around it. He also gives a lot of case studies on people that he has worked with or who have attended his meditations and whose lives have been changed. It's a very inspiring book. And when he talks about the meditations, it also gives you an idea of what type of meditations that he has that would work for you. This is a really good book if you're interested in doing more of Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations, but you're unsure which ones to do and how to do them. He explains it all in detail. After that, I actually listened to another audiobook called I Am by Erin Worley. Now, this was one that just came up as a suggested video on my YouTube feed, and I thought, okay, this looks interesting, and I just was drawn to it. So this audiobook is actually about the author herself, and it's about her trying to connect to the universe and try to speak to the universe, and one day the universe just spoke through her. Basically, the whole book is transcripts of the universe speaking through her to her boyfriend, if that makes sense. And the boyfriend is asking Erin questions and the universe is speaking to her. So it's really interesting because a lot of the questions he asks are questions that we would have, like how do I know that it's you and not Erin speaking? Or how do we get more in touch with our intuition? How do I connect with the universe? Can anyone do this sort of thing where we can have the universe speak through us? These questions are all answered in this audiobook. And I'll put the link down below, but this was a really interesting one and I enjoyed also listening to this one as well. The next book I read is called The Law of Divine Compensation by Marianne Williamson. Again, I had heard a lot of business coaches talk about this, so I thought, you know what, let me give it a try. It has to do with spirituality and business and money, and I'm interested in that sort of thing. So as you can see, there's a lot of stickies in here, a lot of little sticky notes, a lot of tabs, because I found this book to be actually really motivational, inspirational. It talks about fear and guilt and shame and how it affects our life and how it affects us from reaching our potential. She talks about how to remove these from a more spiritual point of view. There are some religious elements to the book, which usually, like I mentioned before, turns me off, but I thought, you know what, let me just carry on with it. And I'm glad I did because it's actually quite interesting. It was quite motivational. So I'll read you one of the sentences from this book so you get an idea of what this book is about. Thoughts like, I want it, but I shouldn't want it, so I guess no, I don't really want it, but actually I do want it, but I don't want to admit that I want it, indicate ambivalence. This confusing mix of thoughts inevitably brings forth a confusing mix of experiences. Many people fail to manifest money because on some deep level, they don't think they should. It talks about that and how to transcend all of this fear and guilt and shame. Interesting book. It's a quick read. I feel like with a lot of these books, with a lot of spiritual motivational books, it is about the motivation and the inspiration. And that's why I read them, because this journey of the inner work is really long and it can get lonely. And it's easy to get uninspired, right? It's easy to just be like, you know what, I'm not going to do my meditation today. I'd rather watch a TV show. Or I'm not going to do my shadow work today because I'd rather go to the mall and go shopping or whatever that is. But if you take the time to be like, you know what, I'm going to read this book, and you learn about other people's experiences, you learn something new about spirituality, about the awakening journey, or even something that maybe you already know, but just listening to it to like a second time, a third time will help you remember it and motivate you, can really, really help to keep you on this journey and keep you dedicated to it. Another book, audiobook, that I just finished a couple of days ago is called The Magic Path of Intuition by Florence Scovel Sheen. This was actually a really, really beautiful audiobook. Again, a little bit religious, but it's basically written for money and abundance and how that's connected to your intuition and how to connect with your intuition. It's a pretty quick listen. It's about an hour and a half, the audiobook, but it has a wealth of information. So there's a ton of affirmations on there, things that you can say and do if you're feeling lack or scarcity. And I have a pretty long note from this book in my phone with all the affirmations and everything that sort of motivated me and inspired me from it. And I go back to it a few times a week to look at it whenever I'm feeling a little bit of lack or scarcity. And it just totally, totally pumps me up. Something interesting though that happened when I was reading this book, me and my husband were going to a pub quiz, and I was really feeling the book, like I was doing the affirmations every day, and I was really feeling like so abundant. We went to this pub quiz and I won 25 pounds, and I was like, yes, this is all about the frequency and the energy that you carry. And while I was reading that book, I really had that frequency and energy. I finished the book a few days ago, but I still am carrying that, and so I keep going back to my notes and just re-looking at all of the notes that I took from that book. Again, I'll put the link in the comments below, but a great audiobook to listen to, easy to listen to, lots of great notes for it. Again, super motivational and inspirational. And finally, the last book, which I'm actually currently reading, I'm about halfway through this book, and it is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. This book I feel like everyone recommends, and I don't know why it took me so long to get to this book, but I believe everything happens at a certain time for a certain reason. And I understand that now, because as I'm reading through this book, oh my God, it's like gold. It's really gold. And I feel like every page or two, I need to stop and just think deeply about what he has said in the book and how it relates to my life. And just like, even him talking about the emotional pain body that we carry within our bodies and how it like feeds off of negativity in our life, and how when you just like step into observer mode, that it just like goes away like that. I've been practicing that, and damn, it really, really works. This is a great, great book so far, and I would actually love to see him talk one day. So yeah, that is currently where I'm at. So those are my book reviews and recommendations of spiritual books that are going to help you on your awakening journey. If you have any recommendations for me on books that I should read or authors that I should look into, let me know in the comments, please. If you have not yet, I would really appreciate a like on this video and a subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much, and let me know what I should talk about next.